In 1962, Charles Van Doren, who was later a senior editor at Britannica, said the ideal encyclopedia should be radical. It should stop being safe. But if you know anything about the history of Britannica since 1962, it's been anything but radical. Britannica is still a very safe, old-fashioned, very high-quality encyclopedia project. Wikipedia, on the other hand, began with a very radical idea. And that's for all of us to imagine a world in which every single person on the planet is given free access to the sum of all human knowledge. And so that's what we're doing. So this is the core vision statement behind Wikipedia. And this really defines all of the work that we do and all of the plans that we're making and all of these things. And every element of this was very carefully constructed to convey different ideas about our project and what we're doing. So what is Wikipedia? So the definition of Wikipedia is that Wikipedia is a freely licensed encyclopedia written by thousands of volunteers from all over the world. And I'll tell you a little bit more about some of those core ideas. So what is free access? When I talk about free access to knowledge, what do I mean? In English, we have only one word free for both gratis and libre. As the question is it free of charge? You don't have to pay anything for it? Yes, it is free of charge, but that isn't really the point. What we're really interested in is free in the sense of free speech, free in the sense of participation, openness, and so all of Wikipedia is placed under free license. So this is the same idea as free software or open source software, as many people know it. The idea is that for all of our work, everything in Wikipedia, you have the right to copy it, to modify it, to redistribute it, and redistribute modified versions. And you can do all of these things commercially or non-commercially. So when people are contributing to Wikipedia, they aren't just contributing to our humanitarian project and our website. They're contributing to a storehouse of knowledge that other people can take and reuse for all kinds of different purposes. And you don't need any special permission from us or anything like that. You can take anything in Wikipedia, modify it, and redistribute it, and that's all perfectly fine with us. So how global is Wikipedia? How global is it really? We have this mission to provide a free encyclopedia to every single person on the planet in their own language. And so this means that the Wikipedia project is inherently global, and we're trying to be in as many places as we can, as many languages as we can. And so although we have more than 3 million articles in English, this is actually less than 20% of the total work in Wikipedia. We have more than 500,000 articles in each language of German, French, Polish, Japanese, Italian, Dutch, Spanish, and Portuguese. As you can see from the list of very large languages, we tend to be very, very strong in all of the European languages. In fact, sometimes it's a little bit surprising which languages are really large. Dutch, for example, has, I think, around 20 million people speaking Dutch, and yeah, it's a larger Wikipedia than Spanish and Portuguese, which is interesting. And we're not really sure why that is, except the weather's really bad in Holland, so I think they stay inside a lot. I know, I went last night from Holland. Ordinary people in Iran and ordinary people all around the world, they love Wikipedia, and they really want good quality, neutral information. But in general, I was very, very pleased with the result. I was concerned that, you know, would the article be extremely biased in one direction or the other, either in support of the government or in support of the opposition. And it turned out it was very, very similar to the English Wikipedia tree. Because we have a smaller community there and it's a smaller language version, it wasn't nearly as long and comprehensive as English. But it basically gave just the facts. It said, you know, there's been an election and the government announced the following results and the opposition has disagreed with the results. There's a dispute going on, there's been some unrest and there was a riot and this, that, and the other happened. And you read it and you just say, okay, well now I understand the basic facts of what's going on. And it wasn't using sort of very negative language about the government or about the opposition, it just told you what you need to know. This is our goal for Wikipedia, is to be a part of the infrastructure of knowledge, a part of helping people to understand the facts of reality so that they can make better decisions. It's very easy for human beings, as we all know, to get very excited about things. If you have biased information or incomplete information, you get very emotional. And of course, some things are worth being emotional about. I'm not opposed to that, but I think we should get emotional after we have the facts. And I hope that Wikipedia is being helpful in that area so that people, if they can understand each other better, maybe they can move forward in a more productive way. But now we're only the 52nd most popular in China. So we're very far behind in China. And the reason for this is that we were completely banned in China for 3 years. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about Wikia, which is the new project. And I started off with some examples from Wikia to see, well, what is the next wave? What are the things that we're doing now? As was mentioned earlier, Wikia is a completely separate company. It's a completely new organization. And the idea in my work is that an encyclopedia was the start. If you think about a traditional library, you go down to the library and you ask to see the encyclopedia, they show you a set of books about this big, you know, A through Z, 25 or 30 volumes. And that's the encyclopedia. It's quite a large work. But when we think about the entire library is much, much bigger. If you look, by the way, at Wikipedia's traffic, and you look at the websites of CNN, the BBC, the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, the traffic of Wikipedia is more than all of those sites combined. So it's really an amazing phenomenon of how popular these things are. So I'm very optimistic about my vision, and but we accept that. We say it's part of the price of living in a free society. It's part of the price of living in an open society. And we actually realize far more benefits from this. We realize that if we trust each other and we believe in an open society where we assume good faith, we assume the person next to us is probably not going to stab us, then all kinds of spontaneous goodwill can happen. We can make friends, we can do things together. Unfortunately, when people start to design websites, they often forget these lessons. The approach that many people make to the creation of social spaces online is to first think about all the horrible things people might do and to create models to prevent the bad things. And so you have things, very complex permission models and who's allowed to do what and so forth, when in fact that's generally not the best approach. Generally the better approach is to leave things as open as you possibly can, but make sure that everyone is accountable. Make sure that you can roll things back. So we have things in the wiki world, we have administrators who are like the police, so they can block someone. If someone starts misbehaving, they can be blocked from editing. We have the ability to, every time you make an edit, all the past versions are saved. So if somebody comes in and causes some harm, it's easy to fix. We just go back to the old version. This is like the hospital. And so instead of trying to deal a priori with all of the things people might do, we say, no, let's let people do good things, and it's really a beneficial thing. And if somebody does something bad, we'll deal with it when it happens. And this is a really important principle that I think applies far beyond just the wiki. I think it applies in many aspects of life. So